We're on a mission from God.
And now for something completely different.
Let's get ready to rumble! Yeah, baby, yeah!
This is Pastor Jolly John Lukomski. I am now up in Minnesota where it's actually cold. We have to wear jackets already, Matt. And how are you doing?
Doing fine, John. Yeah, Pastor Matt, Youngblood Clark here, as always in beautiful South St. Louis, where I serve as pastor at Ascension. And yeah, the weather report here is pretty good, John. Let me tell you, we had a gorgeous Labor Day weekend. As I'm recording this, the first week in September, it is my laptop's at 65 degrees right now.
Wow.
So it's not bad, I gotta say, for St. Louis. But yeah, I heard almost freezing temperatures up in Minnesota already.
Yep, yeah. We were actually having some beautiful weather, and then all of a sudden it's like the bottom dropped out. And although it's okay, the sun's shining today, and so God blesses all of us wherever we're at. However, before we get any further, Matt, I've talked previously how my wife, she always gets it right. She never gets anything wrong. In fact, she's wrong so seldom that I've taken to writing it out on the calendar whenever she gets something wrong. And so there is that one date back in 2020 on November 8th where she had something wrong. And that's about the extent of it.
That's the latest.
Well, no, that's the only one.
The only one. Oh, I got it.
That's the only one on the calendar. And you may say, well, do they do the same? She does for me when I get things wrong. And the answer is those little boxes on the calendar, there's not enough space for her to write that stuff out when I get things wrong. And all of this is leading up to the fact that 2 weeks ago, I made a terrible, terrible mistake. I can't even believe that I did it as I re-listened to the episode. And as you well know, because you get all this information like I get it from the radio station, amongst Hebrew grammarians, we are the number one ranked Saturday morning humorous Bible study amongst Hebrew grammarians. And I made a horrible grammatical error, and my box has been flooded to email, nasty letters, text messages because of this mistake I made, Matt. So,
Hebrew scholars from around the world reaching out to Pastor Jolly John, letting him know. I got it.
Yeah. And so just a couple of things before we get into that error. First of all, I think, Matt, you and I have been doing this for quite some time. I think this is the first episode we've ever had devoted to grammar. Am I right about that?
Probably so, John. Although, yeah, we might pick up more grammarians from this. You know, our demographics
right.
might change. Grammar nerds like my wife, the editor over at CTH.
Oh, yeah. So tell her to be sure and listen to this episode because
she'll be so excited, John. Yeah, they have grammar days where they bring in refreshments that look like different punctuation marks. It's pretty bad.
Are you kidding me? Is that serious?
I'll bring in a chocolate long john. They kind of look like M dashes. I think most normal people don't even know what an M dash is.
That's right.
That's probably
right.
better for it. But yeah. Anyway, that's my wife, John.
Do you know? Now that's as long as this is the grammar episode, we might as well go with this for a little bit. You know why it's called an M dash?
I don't know, John. Why?
Well, because it's the space that an M would take
M.
up.
Oh yeah. So there's an N dash. That's the space of the letter N, and then the M dash, is the space of the letter M. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think it's coming back to me now, John. I think my wife taught me that.
I'm sure. I'm sure you've embarrassed her now. My husband doesn't know what an M dash is. So that's number. But by the way, please, at this point, people are probably turning us off already. But no, we make grammar fun, as apparently your wife does too. Okay,
It's not easy. That is a monumental task, but yes, we do our best, John.
And we're not only going to make it fun, we're going to make it practical. There are some really, really important practical teachings that will come out of this particular grammar lesson. So stick with us. Plus,
Our listeners still sure hope so.
for our mystery lovers, we have a grammar mystery that we will conclude this episode with. And I don't know that I have an answer to this mystery. I'm going to present it to you. You might have some insights, but heck, maybe some of our listeners might have any thoughts about it too. So stay tuned, because we will end with a grammar mystery. Okay.
All right. If that doesn't keep them listening, I don't know what will, John.
So let me start, Matt, by what I got right 2 weeks ago.
All right, John. Yeah. Please.
We were talking about God saying, "Fear not," and I pointed out that in the Greek, in English, we only have one "not" word, right? And so
Yes.
God says, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not
Yeah.
commit adultery," and then He also says, "Thou shalt not fear."
Yes.
Greek actually has two different words for "not." The one word that it has for "lot" is the word "ooh." Ooh. I just love the sound of that. Ooh. And that is when you want to tell somebody, you better do this. You better do this or else, right? Take out the garbage, or whatever. When you're telling someone, I guess it would be not to do something.
Yes.
Sorry.
Don't take out the garbage.
Don't take it. Yeah. Well, we wouldn't say. Well, anyway, when Jesus does in Matthew 5 the commandments, ooh is what he says. Ooh, murder. Ooh, stealing, and all that. Okay,
Yes.
and it's a very, very serious word. There's no doubt about it. This is what you shouldn't do. On the other hand, we pointed out that the Greek has another word, and that word is actually may, which actually is kind of appropriate, I guess, because that's what he says about fear. He doesn't say, ooh, fear. He says, may fear. And may is more of a hope, a wish, a desire. It's not so much as a command as it is a statement of what God wants for us. He wants us not to fear, okay? So in the English, it's the same word, but in the Greek, it's two totally different concepts, which we talked about in detail 2 weeks ago. Here's my mistake, and I have no idea why I did this, but I said that the Hebrew doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hebrew does. The Hebrew has the same kind of distinction in the language. It's different in the Hebrew. When the Hebrew wants to emphasize something, Hebrew uses the word lo murder, lo stealing. And again, the emphasis is absolutely not. There's no question. This isn't a suggestion. You should not kill. You should not steal. And the practical thing that comes out of that, Matt, we're Lutherans. We came out of the closet years ago. And of course, what's the thing we emphasize as Lutherans, Matt?
Jesus, John.
Yeah.
Grace, faith, Jesus. Yes.
Yeah. And the problem is people might hear that, because essentially what we say is, well, we don't care what the do's or the nots. There's no work you need to perform. That's all the gift of God. It's all His work. It's all done by Jesus. And people might say, well, then I guess the commandments really don't matter, right? I mean, I guess it's okay if I keep them, but apparently it's okay if I don't keep them, because God's going to love me. God's going to forgive me anyway. And the word lo, the word lo there, no, the word lo means you better do that. You commit murder, you steal, you commit adultery, God's going to get you. Okay. Is that a pretty accurate statement, you think, Matt?
The God's well, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's consequences to sin. I would say that, right?
Yeah.
And it's certainly between us and God that it hurts our relationship with him, but yet it also, boy, in this world, there's consequences over sin too, right? In our relationships with others, most definitely.
So that's what's emphasized by the Hebrew word "lo." So God says something low, no, you need to pay attention to that, because if you don't, like you said, you will suffer consequences. Lynn and I are doing our morning Bible study in the book of Jeremiah, which, by the way, that's not a very pleasant book to read. Have you read the book of
I
Jeremiah, Matt?
have, and it's long, John. It's the longest book in the Bible. If you count words, it's the
Is that
longest one.
right? I did not know
Yes,
that.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Psalms has more chapters, but Jeremiah has more words.
Has more words. Well, and most of the words are very, very negative words, because essentially he just keeps constantly coming to the people in Jerusalem, particularly to the leaders, and saying, you know what, you guys need to start lowering all these things that God said as commandments. You need to start respecting that. Otherwise, the Babylonians are going to come and they're going to take you off as prisoners, and they're going to burn your city to the ground. And it's just sad, because they reject him, they imprison him. One of my favorite stories is, one of the laws was, of course, every 7 years you're supposed to free your slaves. And so Jeremiah says that, well, they did that because they were afraid. They were afraid of all of these Babylonians that were surrounding, besieging the cities. And they thought, well, we probably need to have the slaves on our side. We're going to need them to fight with us and for us. So, okay, we'll go ahead and keep the law. We'll free the slaves. Well, then the Babylonians get distracted by the Egyptians, so they put off the siege for a while to go fight the Egyptians. And guess what the people in Jerusalem do? The rich, wealthy people. What do you think they do, Matt?
Oh, they probably find some safety.
Well, no, they take all their slaves back.
Oh, they take their yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Well, I know we freed you, but we changed our minds. Now you're going to be our slaves again, because we don't need you, to be fighting with us. And it was just kind of typical of that over and over again. And of course, in the end, the city is burned to the ground, and thousands of people are killed, and they're taken off into captivity. So trust me when I tell you, when God loathes something, you better obey, you better respect. In fact, isn't it ironic that in the Bible, as often as God says, fear not, the Bible also says we should fear, right?
Yeah.
We should fear. So any thoughts about that, Matt?
Yeah. Well, I think that's worth unpacking a little bit, because we talk about that, right, in the Ten Commandments and the meanings, particularly as Lutherans, like as you pointed out, John, when we talk about the meaning of the commandments, that we should fear and love God, right? Comes up again and again if we remember our confirmation classes and catechesis. Fear and love God. So yeah, what does that mean to fear God? Fear and love God. So that's a good point, because that's something I think people struggle with.
Well, and it's interesting. Many translations will change it from fear to awe. We should be in awe of God, and certainly we should be in awe of God. I'm not denying that. But it's interesting that if you check it out in the Hebrew and in the Greek, I think I got it right. It is the same. It's the word for fear. Okay, if you sin, then you should be frightened. In fact, isn't that what the Bible says? Don't fear him who can harm the body, but fear him who can destroy the body and soul in hell. And so, yeah, that's so. Please, dear people, if you've ever heard us talk about God's love and forgiveness, that is not a suggestion that you should ignore his commandments or act like it doesn't make any difference if you keep those commandments. What kind of God would that be who goes around and says, oh, I don't care if you kill people. Go ahead and steal something. Who meant, and be unfaithful to your spouse. It's nobody would want a God like that. So the Hebrew lo, I think, is a reminder that we really need to take God's commandments serious. In fact, can I share a Bible passage with you on that?
Yeah, please do, John.
Okay. From Romans 6, verses 1 and 2. What shall we say then? Are we to continue in sin that grace may abound? By no means, Paul says. And this will tickle you, Matt. That by no means in the Greek is actually the two Greek negatives, oo
Together.
and may together, which they do for emphasis. When you have two negatives together, that's to emphasize by. Well, I think not a bad translation. By no means. Can I tell you a grammar joke now that we have all the grammarians listening to us?
I know they're glued to the radios and their
They are.
podcasts. Yeah,
And
please,
they'll-
John, go ahead.
They'll love this. They'll love this. Okay. So in English, if you did that, if you had a double negative, your wife would tell you this. What happens in English if you have two knots? What happens?
So they cancel each other out, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way I'm going to do that. That means, well, I am going to do that, right? What do you think about it?
Yeah. So in English, when you double them up, then it essentially makes it a positive statement, which is why the grammarians would tell you don't use double negatives because it just confuses the heck out of people because the two negatives actually make a positive. So anyway, so here's the joke. So the grammarian was teaching, just as your son, I understand, is going to be graduating. He'll be teaching English, right?
That's right.
And
Yeah, high
Spanish.
school English.
Okay. So this might be your son Noah, because he's teaching. He says, in English, where you have two negatives, that makes it into a positive statement. However, in Russian, the two negatives do just like Greek do. It just emphasizes. It just makes the negative all the more stronger.
Okay.
So he said, well, that's true. It's interesting that there is no language where two positives will make a negative. And someone from the back of the class says, yeah, right. right now, the grammarians are doubled over. They're doubled over in laughter.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, right. All right, back. Now that we've had a little humor, I thought we were getting so intense there. We needed a little humorous relief. By the way,
just a little humorous relief is right, John.
Well, we don't want to overdo it. We don't want people to get distracted. So here's one last thing about the low. It dawned on me, who are the only people that don't fear? Do you know, Matt? Who are the only? Think about in the New Testament. Who are the people that Jesus dealt with? They didn't have any fears.
Sure. Oh, well, that's a good question, John. Because I mean, even the faithful, followers have fears.
So it's not the disciples. That's a good point.
It's not the disciples. No. It's not not the shepherds. It's not not Mary. So who doesn't fear? Maybe it's the people that perhaps don't follow Jesus. The Pharisees and others who are trying to entrap him, perhaps. They have different types of fears. Fears of what the people are going to do, rather than what God is going to do, because they think God is on their side. I'll throw that out there, John. What are your thoughts?
That's exactly what I was thinking too. It's the hypocrites. It's the people. Like Matt, by the way, great point. I hadn't thought about that. They were frightened. They were frightened of things, but they weren't frightened of what they needed to be frightened of.
Yeah, because they're on God's side. Why do they need to be afraid of that, right?
Exactly.
That's their assumption. Yeah.
See, same thing with the people that Jeremiah were preaching to. Oh, God help them. They should have been afraid, but no, they weren't, because we got it all under control. We got the Egyptians coming to save us. We're making our sacrifices to all the gods, so we got all our bases covered. But of course, the commandment is, "Thou shalt not." Right, worship other gods, and that's a low, by the way. That's a low. So I'm just saying to people, it's all right to have fear. Okay, in fact, that's probably a good thing. It's when we don't have fear that we're probably going to fall away from God. But of course, that brings me to the second Hebrew word, and that is the word all. I'm sorry, that's just how it's pronounced, all. And that's the word that he uses again when he says, fear not. Okay? Mm-hmm. And again, here's another. Man, this is an episode full of firsts, because I don't think we've ever read from the theological word book of the Old Testament before. Have we? Have we ever read from?
Probably on the rest of the basics, probably not, John.
So let me just read you what it says about all. And that's the word God uses when he says, fear not. All fear, he says. This particle expresses the negative as either a wish or a preference, thus indicating its more reserved intent than the very adamant low. I love that. The adamant low. Consistent with this concept, whenever it is used with a verb, the verb is in the jussive, which is often indistinguishable from the imperfect. Again, the grammarians will love that comment. Doesn't mean anything to anyone else. Although the jussive is important. Because again, an imperative is, again, you got to do this. That's the imperative. And a jussive is more, this is what I want for you. This is what I hope. This is what I wish. As it says, it's your wish. It's your preference. It's never used with an imperative, it says. It's never used with the imperative. Finally, inasmuch as it expresses preference, it often occurs in prayers to God, where it introduces a plea. And I thought, see, so when God says, do not fear, he's not telling you better not fear, but rather he's saying, I don't want you to be afraid. And the beautiful thing is, of course, we don't need to be afraid, because Jesus Christ has suffered and died for our sins. The one thing we really have to be afraid of is God, and yet in Christ, there's no reason to fear him. He's the one that just says, come to me. Come. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear. Why? Because thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. There's plenty of things to fear, but God says, don't fear, because you're not going to face any of these things alone. I will always be with you. Are you ready for the mystery? We got a few minutes.
The
Are you ready
mystery,
for the
John.
mystery?
Yes, the
Here's the
grammar mystery.
And if we don't answer it, we will pick this up next week. Deuteronomy 31. You got the Bible open in front of you?
Yeah, I sure do.
All right. So read verse 6 here. And this is Moses now speaking to the children of Israel before they go into the promised land.
All right.
So would you read that
Moses
verse?
says, yeah. Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you.
All right. And by the way, that's the Hebrew all there. Not low, not that adamant commandment, but this beautiful wish, preference, desire. He does not want them to fear. By the way, a perfect comment, right? Because the last time they were in this position, the last time they were about to enter the promised land 40 years ago, what had happened, Matt?
Well, they were afraid. They did fear, right? And because of that, they decided not to go in. And boy, for the next 40 years total, then they wandered in the wilderness.
All right. So the emphasis here is no reason to fear. Why? Why not? Why is there no reason to fear? I think that's what's the exciting part of that.
Yeah, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you.
All right. And I hope everybody listening to us knows those words are being spoken to you. And if you've got something you're frightened about, all right, you're frightened. We know that. God knows that. But here's the message. You don't need to be afraid, because the Lord's going to be with you. Now, here's the mystery. We move on to the next verse 7, if you would. In fact, read verse 7 and 8, Matt.
Okay. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land that the Lord has sworn to their fathers, and give to them, and you shall put them in possession of it. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed.
All right, now here's the mystery. So we got two do not fears. First, to the people of Israel, he says do not fear. And the Hebrew word there is the word all, which again means this is my desire. This is what I wish for you. And I can wish it because I'm going to be with you. Then he turns around and he says essentially the same thing to Joshua. But this is the one instance that I could find in the Bible where he doesn't say all, but he does say lo. He uses that rather harsh, strict commandment word there, do not fear. Now, why and I don't have a definite answer for this. Do you have any thought, Matt, why when he speaks to Joshua, he doesn't say all, which is my wish is for you not to fear, but he does say the same thing he says with killing and stealing and adultery. No, you won't fear.
Yeah, I think maybe because Moses has been in Joshua's shoes, right?
Okay.
Moses had been the one leading the people, and perhaps he's looking back on his own life and thinking about the times where, yeah, I did fear. The times where, yeah, I did strike that rock when I was supposed to just speak to it, or those times when I did, doubt that the Lord was really going to be with us, or, all those times that Moses made mistakes. And looking back at God's faithfulness to him and to the people, and now Joshua, who's taking the place of Moses, that leadership role. Do not do this, buddy. Don't do what I did. Do not fear. Don't be afraid. The Lord is with you. So just one thought on that, John.
So it's kind of I like that, Matt. I like kind of the Franklin Delano Roosevelt statement, right? There is nothing to fear but fear itself.
Sure.
Kind of that thought as the leader of the people. I think I would agree with that. That when you take, and in fact, the Bible says that. It says, think twice before you become a leader in the house of God, because then you have extra responsibilities. There's more going to be expected of you than someone who's simply a member there. And as I reflect my own experience as a pastor, I can see that, and that as I've confessed, I'm a man of many fears. And as I get older, the fears just seem to multiply for me and for my family. But I can say, I think with pretty much confidence, when I would get up and when I would preach, there would be no fear in my preaching, because when I would tell people that God will not leave you or forsake you, I knew that was true. I knew that was a fact, because that's what God says clearly in his word. So that I don't know. Do you have any other? Because it just surprised me, because everywhere else it's always the all fear, which is just come to me. I don't want you to be frightened. And yet here to Joshua, no, it's low, just like it is with all the other commandments. And any other thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, no, that's my thought. I think Moses is certain, right? That again, like you said, John, that it's anchored in God's presence, right? This is why you're not afraid. And to really emphasize that, because, the Lord is with you. The Lord is with you, Joshua.
And I like the fact that I had not thought of that it's probably reflected on Moses' experience, that when he had those times of fear, that only made things more difficult for him and for the people. So all the more reason to exhort Joshua to not have that fear. So I tell you what, if any of our listeners have any other ideas, because we have a lot of smart people that listen to us, okay? It amazes me, but we do have smart people. So if you have any thoughts about that, again, it's www.kfuo at iCloud.com. Send us and give us your ideas. And we've enjoyed sharing this grammar episode with you on Wrestling with the Basics. Any final thoughts, Matt, in our final 10 seconds?
Yeah, no, thanks for sticking with us, everyone. With the oohs, the mays, the owls, the lows, alls, the lows. Thanks, John, for the insights. I appreciate kind of the survey of both Old and New Testament when it comes to negatives and double negatives.
And let me just end by saying, fear not.
Showing support for KFUO is now easier than ever. You can sport a KFUO shirt, swag, or even socks by visiting our online store. Go to kfuo.org/store and order high-quality KFUO-branded merch. You no longer need to wait for our annual share-a-thon for a chance to show your KFUO spirit. Visually share and wear this ministry out in the world by checking out our selection. Every purchase helps to support our proclamation of Christ for you, anytime, anywhere. Go to kfuo.org/store.